Welcome to Artcasters, episode 381. We've got no guests tonight because we are the guests.
That's right.
And this is the first of a couple months of Sunday streams where we're gonna kind of switch in the summer to doing Sundays, and so hopefully we get some people showing up. And if not, they can watch it later. But before we jump into the topic, let's introduce ourselves. So Scott, where can we find your stuff?
You can find my stuff at my website at circworks.com. Basically, if you go to circworks.com, I have a number of, things you can purchase for one. Like I've got digital products. I also have a few of my wax packs left. If you want to check those out, they're called Gross Food. It's all this gross, disgusting. It's in the vein of like Garbage Pail Kids and Wacky Packages, and they're in actual wax packs and everything. I got a few more of those available. I also have some limited edition 3D prints, and then I've got a bunch of digital products that'll help you make comics and things like that. And oh, cool, yeah, Josh has got a few. A couple of those are exclusive that I don't sell on the website, but the Gross Food one I do. So, and then what else? And of course, my YouTube channel. Check me out on YouTube, where I'm uploading like videos that show you how to make those wax packs, among other things. I just started kind of transferring over to doing something different, where I'm reinventing or reverse engineering nostalgia and novelties and things like that from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it's super fun. So definitely check those out. So go check that out at CircWorks Art Labs on YouTube.
Awesome. And Josh, where can we find your stuff?
All right. Well, if you want to see me losing my absolute mind drawing this insane crowd sequence in a theater, you can follow me on YouTube at Joshua Kemble. And you can also pick up my books, Jacob's Apartment and Two Stories. Jacob's Apartment is a graphic novel about two roommates that are polar opposites that end up falling for each other amid like life crises. Jacob, the main character's father, is diagnosed with cancer, and Sarah is questioning her relationship choices because of a broken relationship, and both of them start finding themselves drawn to each other in both dreams and reality. Their dreams start kind of interweaving with reality in a book that is a doomed romance. That's if you took Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, put it in a blender with Ghost World, and you like that flavor, that's Jacob's Apartment. And then there's Two Stories, which is my graphic novel about autobiographical graphic novel that talks really openly about my journey learning how to deal with depression as well as caregive for somebody with panic disorder. And the whole goal of it is to try to destigmatize hard conversations about mental illness. Both are good books. Both are on discount, I think, currently at Amazon. So if you've held back on getting those, now would be a really good time. And then the rest of my stuff's at joshuakemble.com.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Josh, I noticed, I was looking through some of my workbooks and stuff, and I noticed they discount some of those. And I remember we were talking about that before. So you still get the full whatever royalty off of those, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Yeah, because it's like some of them are like, it seemed like they really discounted them. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, cool. Pretty cool.
And I just got some samples of stuff. So here is a Do Things Robots Can't shirt, and it also comes on a hoodie, and they're really good quality. I'm excited about them. And I also have this little thing so that I don't have to pitch this every time.
Beautiful protection of the thing destroying us.
TPU liner. Open pores for activities. Polycarbonate on our shell. Deducted charger unbeatable. Impact resistant. Phone, bias. Clicko, dot. Clicko, gaka. Bye.
So yeah, you can check out my phone cases at CoreyCurr ... or CoreyCurr.ca. Either one of those will take you to my website. I don't know how to type that.
I like that. I think that should be, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, I'll be working on some more of those tonight as we talk. But But yeah, I actually have that as well. So like these phone cases are pretty awesome. They're like dual lined and stuff. So they have like a rubber like impact inner liner and then like an outer hard shell. And they look really good. Kind of in sublimation printing, which I thought was, it turned out pretty well. So I'll have more and more of those designs up along with the t-shirts and hoodies and all the other stuff. Cool. So, yeah, a topic today. I thought it would be interesting to talk about schedules and how we balance all this stuff for a couple of different reasons. So, Josh just went full freelance again, which he had done for a decade and a half prior to being an art director for a while. And Scott, you did. How many years ago did you go full time on your own? Was that
I don't know.
4?
My career has been sort of a little bit of everything, and it goes back and forth. So
Yeah.
This latest stint, though, oh geez, I'm trying to think.
I feel like it's been a few years, like
I want to say maybe three. I think. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not
you
sure.
those of you in the chat, you can go find that out because we have an Artcasters episode. I think the day after Scott wasn't working for somebody else again. And then I just ended the semester, and my wife is in the middle of a play where she's commuting, 2.5 hour round trip commute every day in the evenings. And so I decided to kind of move my schedule around so that I'm not doing some stuff. And I think, Josh, you were saying that you're not, because you and I kind of naturally kind of invert into like a nocturnal schedule, but you're not doing that.
I'm trying not to. Yeah.
Trying not to. Okay.
I'm actively attempting the changeover. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of talk about like, talk about schedules, how that would relate to productivity. I'm kind of interested in kind of picking your guys' brains as far as like doing any kinds of warm-ups, because there's a project that we're probably going to take on the side as kind of a small group here that I might use as some warm-ups and things. Working in exercise, working in family life, working in sleep, and making sure that we're not like, letting any one thing kind of take over all the things. And anyway, I think all three of us have slightly different but overlapping approaches to that. So I thought that might be kind of an interesting topic. So I'll kick it off. I normally, in between semesters, kind of go nocturnal, where I will kind of wake up between like 11 to 1, like 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then kind of hang out with the family and then do some stuff. And then when everybody goes to bed around 8, I'll go down to the studio and I work till 4 or 5 in the morning, sometimes a little later. But this time around, my light keeps turning off and isn't working. But this time around, what I decided is I want to spend more time with my family. So I'm going to get up around 4 or 5 in the morning and then work until 9 or 10. We'll kind of see like what the timing is like on that. And then I'm going to go to bed. And I don't know if I've gone to bed this early intentionally in decades, but I'm going to try to be like in bed by like 8:30, asleep by like 8:30 or 9. And so, but in there, I want to get some more esoteric crumble flux done. And we've got to decide what we're doing with this kind of secret project and whether we're talking about it or not, because I'm ready to start doing it. But I thought that might be kind of a fun, like, 30 to 45 minute kind of warm up illustration to do each time. And that's kind of that. But I'm kind of curious with you guys on exercising and showering, because sometimes if I start working immediately in the first thing in the morning, I end up like not showering until, like after dinner or so. I just get really distracted and I get kind of into that flow state, and I kind of get, so what are you guys doing, or what are you planning on doing? And how do you work in like other things like, family, client work, hygiene, that type of stuff, working out?
Who's gonna start?
I feel like Scott,
I'm
you
gonna
should
kinda-
start it off because I suspect you have the best balance of us on. Maybe
See
I'm wrong.
that you would assume, I guess. No, I was going to kind of use this as a sort of a learning opportunity or something to kind of kick me in the ass and get me on somewhat of a better schedule.
Don't you like get up and don't you get up and run?
Well, yes, typically I do, but when you wake up at 6 a.m. and it's 100 outside,
Oh my gosh.
you don't feel like running. So so that's part of the problem, is because it's just so hot here that for the last I haven't ran for the past 2 weeks, and that's usually, before I would usually do that about 3 times a week, and that helps at least kind of get me motivated and stuff a lot of times. So right now that's kind of on hold, and if I woke up earlier, like at 5, it might still be around 80 degrees, and I usually run for about an hour, and in that hour it might get up to 90. So it's still, I don't know, but I could probably do that. I just haven't made the choice to do that. I don't know. So yeah, I'm not right now. Currently, I'm not running, but I need to. We were kind of talking with Jen about this. She was talking about getting like a gym membership, but I don't know. To me, I like the fact that I could just walk outside and go jogging, not have to go drive to a gym. I don't know that that's going to work for me. I just like to, on my own terms and everything and all that stuff. So I don't know if I'm a gym person per se. So anyway, so I don't know. But I gotta figure something out there. But as far as my schedule right now, and I think I want a little more structure, because I feel like some days I wake up, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do today? I've got a bunch of stuff, and then certain things like with the YouTube stuff I'm doing, I'm kind of at that point right now where, there's a lot of effort and things putting in, and I was kind of hoping to see. I knew it would take time to do, and I'm still in it for the long haul, but it's a little discouraging because, like, I think of the new videos that I put out, each one has got less views as I've released in release order. So that's kind of like, you're hoping at least to see an uptick. But anyway, so I'm trying to be proactive. I joined. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Roberto Blake, right?
Yeah.
So he's got a thing called Awesome Creator Academy. I just joined that. Which is like a monthly thing, and he's got office hours and stuff like that. So I'm going to see if that can kind of help. But besides that, I've been doing a bunch of research and stuff, and constantly like tweaking videos and the formula and things like that. So, but sometimes it's just like, I'm like, oh, I gotta maybe focus on some other stuff that maybe would like bring in money and things like that. But then I'm having so much fun with the YouTube. Sometimes I kind of like, well, I'd rather be doing this. So anyway, so there's a lot of that going on right now in my head as far as prioritizing things and what's most important and all that kind of stuff. So, but I think I need to come up with kind of a schedule, maybe even if it's like, okay, these days I'm going to work on YouTube. These days I'm going to work on either trying to bring in, either client work or something until I can get everything going, something going on YouTube. So, that's kind of what I'm doing now, but typically what it is when I'll wake up, and then before, like, I was going jogging. Now it's basically there's certain things I do in the morning. I go, like, I'll water the grass and the trees and stuff and do all that kind of stuff. And then of course, feed the dogs, eat breakfast, and usually get a shower. And then the first thing I usually do is work on my comic book for about either 30 minutes to an hour every day. So I do that. And then, but sometimes depending how long that other stuff takes, it might get kind of late. And then I feel like even though I'm being productive and I'm working on my comic, I feel like, oh, I'm kind of behind on this stuff. And, so anyway, that's kind of where I am now. And then just depending what else is going on as far as, what my partner's doing. And, I'm trying also teaching my daughter how to drive and all that kind of stuff. So, it's just, my schedule's kind of all over the place. It's not very structured, I still keep a Trello board, and I try to, before every day, I kind of put, oh, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow, and then things creep in, whether it's emails I gotta concentrate on this or whatever. But it just really, it's kind of all over the place. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna kind of take this opportunity to kind of, I guess, brainstorm with you guys and see what you're doing, or get some ideas, or try to get back into some kind of structure, I guess.
So you're using Trello to kind of, are you like triaging things, or is that just so you don't forget stuff? Or because I know at one point in time you had kind of like a calendar going on where you had you would have all the stuff that you needed to get done on the days of the week, and that was kind of like out there. It kind of sounds like maybe you're just kind of waking up and just getting as much done as possible, but there's not as much organization to it anymore. Or
Exactly, yeah. And there's no real calendar set to the Trello anymore. It's just basically a to-do list that I can move around. And it is, like you said, it's kind of like, oh, I got to remember to do this, so I'll put something in there, like just, oh, this is what I have to with this. This is like the checklist for today. And if I don't get it done, then I move it over or whatever, and then I can expand on that. And then I've got a whole Trello board with all my ideas for YouTube, and then I'll go in there and I'll like, okay, get to come up with an idea for video or whatever. So I still use Trello quite a bit.
yeah,
But it's
not.
It's like I said, it's not attached to a calendar or anything. Yeah, Josh.
I have a question regarding that. So, like, when you do that, because I have a similar system, although I'm probably going to be the most, like, the least tech of everybody here on my organization system. But when you do that, do you find that certain tasks just keep bouncing from like to-do list today to to-do list tomorrow to to-do list
Some of them
from now? Yeah.
So, and a lot of times it's things that I don't really want to do. Like one thing that's been on my thing is to call my insurance company, because I just feel like I'm getting charged way too much for car insurance. When I talk to everyone else what they're paying, I'm like, my kids are paying less than me. It's like, this is not right. I don't have any accidents or any tickets.
I've got a company you should talk to.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk after the show. Remind me, because it's like, no, well, this is not, why am I paying this much? and I work from home. I don't even drive, You know
what I've heard lowers insurance rates. It's the weirdest thing, but I've heard when people buy items from Corey Kerr's store, sometimes their insurance rates just magically disappear.
Yeah.
Correlation does not necessarily equal causation, but I'm just saying, I've heard that works.
It's been known to happen. It's been known to happen.
But my point, and to answer Josh, was just that there's certain tasks on there that I'm just not prioritizing, which I should. And so yeah.
Well, and what I do when I'm doing that is, if I do that 2 or 3 days in a row, I either delete that task, or I just I make it so like I will not do anything else until that thing is done.
Yeah. Right.
So I kind of have like a make it or break it kind of call at some point where I'm like, okay, I've been putting this off. Obviously I don't want to do it. Do I not want to do it because it's going to suck, or do I not want to do it because I don't find it that important?
Yeah. And what's funny is that I'll do that too. Certain days I'll just go, okay, this is all the stuff I don't want to do. This is my day for doing that. And I'll do that. And you feel so good when you do, when you do the stuff that you don't want to do, and and it's done, then you feel good. So I got to remember that feeling and take some time to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
I like it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, yeah. So Josh, and I can kind of go through my stuff. I feel like my stuff is probably way random. You're saying that yours is pretty low tech.
Yeah. So I have a really basic system where, I definitely think there's a couple things that if you're going to work for yourself or work for clients or anything like that, you need to very carefully organize your emails. That's going to be a huge thing. So meaning have subfolders for your emails and categories and stuff like that, so you don't lose track of important emails from clients and stuff like that. That's fairly easy. That can just be done through Gmail. But I encourage people to use color coding. For me, I color code an email as it comes in. a certain color, and then that's important, like that I know I need to address. And then of course once I've dealt with it, I'll kind of color code it a different color. So there's little things like that that can kind of help organize your workflow on an email level. But other than that, like I just have usually like these little scraps of paper that I've had floating around, and I finally purchased this because I realized I've been using scraps of paper that basically do what this does, which this is just a freestyle task organizer. Here, let me. It's just like a really basic freestyle task list where it just has, I'll show a blank page so as not to reveal anything. It just has basic stuff like important tasks, and then it has a checkbox.
Yeah, I've got.
And it has like the top 3 priorities at the top, and then that's basically it. So it's like I kind of go through, I list my tasks of things to do, and then I kind of triage it, and then I pick the 3 most urgent that I have to handle in the day, kind of put those at the top. And
I do that too. I've got day by day. I've got like a calendar and all that kind of stuff too. Do you guys?
I like the personally. Prior to that book, I just would use just lists that I would write on like scrap pieces of paper that I had left over from art. So I'd have like old printouts of roughs or whatever. I fold them into fourths and make a checklist. To me, there's something physically awesome about accomplishing a task and actually crossing it off on a list. And I might just be old in that sense, but like to me, Trello, all of these digital systems have just never helped me when it comes to like organizing my own workflow. I think if you're working with multiple people, things like Trello would be almost like, or ClickUp or like, other like task management software would be, essential. And I've definitely used it in those contexts, but I feel like just as an individual, I tend to do a lot better with just my own little, handwritten one. What do you think, Scott? You were about to say
I was going to say, as somebody who kind of does both, like I use Trello, but it's not. Like I said, I still have my calendar and everything. And people have been telling me to use like I don't really like Google. I don't really use Google Calendar. I'm like,
I don't like it.
Everyone's saying you should switch over to Google Calendar and stuff, and sometimes it's when it sends me an alert and everything, and you have like, because I don't carry this thing around with me all the time, so a lot of times I'm like, I don't have that, so I might make a note in my phone, and then when I get home, write it down or whatever. So I mean, there's pluses and minuses to everything, but it's like I said, I don't have I could attach it, and I have in the past attached a calendar to Trello, but to me Trello is just, I don't know. It seems it's when your handwriting is so bad that you can't read it half the time, and your spelling is so bad, as you guys can probably attest to. Whenever I'm texting you guys or messaging you guys, I always have to put another. I see. I had a typo there. I go, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. But anyway, so for me, Trello, because it'll correct, and I can read it, and if I had a ton of Post-it notes, which basically is what Trello is. It's like Post-it notes that you can move around. It just would get way too confusing and hard for me. So that's why I like Trello, but I still do like that physical aspect of writing things down and everything and checking in on that. So
I love it.
I love that basically Josh is like my dad, who has a cell phone, but has carried around a paper planner for like the last 35 years or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, paper planners, to me, there's something about it. It might be the connection to just when I used to go to college or something like that. But it's like, there's something about, to me, like having a list that I can write like physically, and that I can physically cross off. That's just so rewarding and so much easier for my brain to handle than like digital. I don't know why. There's something about it. But the one thing I would say that I think is really helpful with that too is whenever I forget to do lists, I start getting really stressed. And I will catch this happen like maybe once every 3 months or something. I'll have a day where I'm really stressed, and my wife will literally just be like, "Did you make a list?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't." because she knows this about me. It's like if I just kind of sit down and like back plan something, it doesn't tend to stress me out. I tend to like be able to kind of figure out ways to navigate, target like what the most important thing is. But if I don't write things down, particularly because I'm a little autistic, and so it's like I think that I literally start to lose my mind if I don't have like a map or a plan. And so I literally I really rely on the ability to kind of make lists, and not just that, but like triage them so that I can just forget about the things that I need to do and just focus on things one at a time because they're on the list, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just kind of haunts me and I feel like I have to do everything all at once, and that I think is very paralyzing.
Yeah. Whenever I start getting anxiety during a project, I have found that it's because I haven't
Yep.
organized my tasks or that project, and that anxiety. So one of the things that my wife talks about all the time is like, what is your anxiety trying to tell you? What is your depression trying to tell you? Like, what is your brain and mind trying to alert you to right now?
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of it is I have no problem working. Like I will outwork anybody. I don't know, maybe not Josh, but I will,
No, I can see that. I mean,
yeah,
you are a hard worker. Yeah.
yeah. And it's one of those things, like I will brute force attack a problem, like I will outwork the problem, but that alone is not necessarily always the best tactic, because I might not be pointed in the right direction. I might not be working on the right task. I might be putting in a ton of effort for something that like isn't important, but is like easy to achieve, or, I might be seeking like the wrong thing. And so often I found that, and I remember I was talking to you, Josh, years ago. I was in the middle of a big thing, and I was kind of complaining about it. And you're like, just art direct yourself. And like that comment made me think like, oh yeah, this is like a thing that I've noticed this pattern professionally in my life. Is at some point in time, about 20% into every project that I do, I have to sit down and go, okay, I think I'm like into it enough where I understand it, but any further action without like sitting down and like planning stuff out is going to be a lot of wasted effort.
Yeah, and like for me, with the territory of time I'm in right now, where the floor is pretty much gone right now. So like financially, I'm in I'm okay right now, but that may not last very long. And so it's like it's a kind of tense situation, and so it's one of the big juggling acts with that is always going to be, making sure that I'm making progress and attempts, and noble attempts at something. And like and with those things, it's like I can kind of scattershot it to like to an extent, but I'll do a lot better if I do targeted attempts at different things. And so in those cases, like planning your time and like is so important, because that time can very quickly go away. And in the meantime, I also have to get a huge graphic novel done, and so it's like that has to happen. So to be able to kind of juggle that and other tasks that I have to do and other ways that I have to like split my resources right now, if I didn't write those down or backplan them, I would that's half the battle with this kind of thing is like, I think a lot of people honestly like end up just kind of like not trying after they've kind of hit enough like brick walls, and they just kind of give up. And it's like, to me, that, that's kind of the non-negotiable. Like, I'm not going to go there. So it's like, where do I go with these different amounts of time that I have that are limited? But it's like, if I don't invest, which is why like I even met with like that author that I told you guys about, like for a potential pitch, because while that might seem like a really crazy long shot, now might actually be the time to do that kind of crazy long shots, so that by the time I forget about it and it's out being pitched around by my literary agent, maybe that'll bear some fruit later on. Whereas if I don't jump on that now, like 3 months from now, who knows? I mean, things may not work out. I might be having to like work fast food or something, which I doubt. But
Yeah.
but I might, and if that's the case, there's like in those cases, then I'll be happy that pitch is out there,
Right.
doing its work when I have the time to do it. So it's like,
Okay, so you
yeah,
bring up two things I want to talk to
Yeah.
both of you about, because I have never been full-time freelance. Like I've
Yeah.
never been full-time on my own. I've always had a day job and then taken clients or done personal projects on the side in the evenings and weekends. So I think there's three things that you've got to kind of balance, and I'm curious if this is kind of instinctual or intentional or some combination of those two things. But let me list the three as I see it. One is, I think personal projects are really important, and I would include any type of personal projects, whether it makes money or doesn't make money. I think it all kind of leads to money eventually. Whether it's used as self-promotion or whatever. So one is personal projects. And I would probably include like a lot of the stuff that we've seen Scott do, where he's doing, digital downloads and stuff like that. It's not necessarily like I'm doing this personal project because it's fun, but it's a bit of a risk it's a bit of a gamble to be like, okay, is this going to pay off? Is somebody going to hire me to do something, or is somebody going to buy this thing or whatever, like those types of personal projects. Then the other two, I would say, you're like looking for client work or publishing, right? You're looking to be hired to do something. And those are, I would put in two categories. One is kind of like short-term stuff where it's a pretty immediate payoff. You get a contract, you close the contract within 2 weeks to a month or something. And there's kind of that like short-term, like immediacy of like cash flow through the door. And then there's more the long tail stuff where it might be like you put some work together and you throw that out there, and maybe 6 months to 8 months later, a publisher picks it up and you get, some sort of thing. And so those are the three categories that I see you two kind of like doing. And I do those, but I can't do all three because I've got the day job. And so I usually will pick one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's probably important to manage some balance of those three: the personal projects, the short-term cash flow, and the long-term kind of long shots. So, and I'd like to hear both of your answers on this, as you guys are planning out your day, your week, your month, your year. Is there an intentional amount of thought put towards stuff that's going to pay off in the long term, stuff that will most likely pay off in the short term, or kind of like personal projects? Let's start with you, Scott.
Okay, so like with let's just say like either KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishings, and the books I publish on there, or my digital product. So that's something that I invested a lot of time in, and it kind of takes a little while to see that sort of residual effect. So when you first do it, and at least in my experience, and some people may have like created, say, a digital product where they've launched it and it like blew up. And I've heard stories like that all the time. I've never had that happen. But so, I'll create something like, for instance, the Amazing Comic Book World Builder that I did that kind of a partnership with Design Cuts. You still there, Corey, or you just camera off?
Sorry, I'm here. I was just switching
Okay.
over. So.
Okay. Yeah. So that was probably the biggest digital product that I built, and I did that in association with Design Cuts. So the way that deal's structured, the only place I can sell it other than my own website is on Design Cuts, which is a website where you can buy digital products. So I spent a lot of time in there, and we launched it, and it did well. But then when you're thinking about the amount of time I put in, I'm like, is this really worth it? But a couple years later, it's like, it's definitely worth it, because that product sells on sale for about, I think it's about a $40 product. It's digital. I don't have to ship it or anything. So when I get an order for one of those, it's like, wow, that's just like, and I get those throughout, I might, in a month, I might get a couple of those, 2 or 3 or whatever, possibly more, just depends. But, that's a nice little thing. And plus I have other digital products as well. Mm-hmm. And some of those sell a lot better. And then that's just through my website. If I sell it on like Design Cuts, I get less of a cut because they take a cut, and it's the same way with different marketplaces out there. But so
Is their cut well designed, Scott?
yes.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but then I've got, and then I have like bundles running with all different sites, and there's a lot of these sites out there. So I'll get at the beginning of the month or whatever, I'll get checks, for some of them for $20, some of them for $100, some of them, whatever. So all so something like that, it's a big investment in time. But once and a lot of that stuff is, there's really no. It seems like the sales get better as time goes, especially when I've got YouTube videos that I usually, when I do a product, I'll put out a YouTube video. And it's the same thing with YouTube. Like these videos that I just put out that I'm kind of like, well, they're not performing as much as I was hoping, but they're evergreen, and I know that eventually they'll just accumulate, or they may even. My biggest viewed videos weren't that big when they first put them out. Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, so far on the new videos I put out, I've got a sticker video, I've got like a wax pack video, and like a 3D analog red and blue glasses video. So I have an old sticker video. It's my most viewed video. It's over 100,000 something views. And then I've got a wax pack video that's not, and none of these two older videos, they're not even half as good or as this new one. But that old wax pack video, same thing. I put it out. It didn't do very well. But if you do a search on YouTube for wax pack, how to make wax packs, mm-hmm. the only two videos up there are mine. So I've kind of cornered the market on that particular thing. And so my videos tend to do pretty good in search, and over time they do better. So there's that. And when you have a video like that where you're kind of, same thing with the videos I've done on my different products, I'll do a video, and a lot of those have a decent amount of views. So people stumble upon them or whatever, or find them in search, and then get orders and things like that. And the same thing with like KDP, which I probably should have. I created a number of different books. The ones that sell the best though are, because I try to it's kind of a whole thing when you're doing KDP, is that you use keywords and things like that to try to get people in different niches to find the books and stuff like that. But the ones that sell the best for me are like my comic workbooks, because I talk about them and I advertise them, and they're my website. And I get a number of people to come to my website, mostly because I've got a free product, the Comic Maker Starter Kit. So they'll go there for that, and then maybe they'll see, he sells these books or whatever. So I sell a decent amount of those too, the workbooks. And I probably should have kept doing those. And now I'm a little disenfranchised, because right now KDP is kind of problematic, because there's now with AI, I had the advantage because most people were just, it's kind of the lowest hanging fruit. It's like the lowest barrier to entry type thing, which are like notebooks, blank notebooks. People put, and I've done a few of those, and they never sold, because there's just so much other people doing those. It doesn't matter how well you design the cover or whatever. So I was doing better with coloring books, because there's not everyone can do one, but now with AI, people are like, oh, here, you could create a coloring book like nothing, and they're all garbage because none of the styles match or anything like that. But people don't see that when they order a book. They're just ordering a book, and there's really no, as far as Amazon, there's no quality control or anything like that. So I'm kind of like, do I really want to bother creating more KDP books? Which, maybe I should, if I come up with some different ideas or things that haven't been done, or something that I could promote myself. Yeah. But I know I kind of got on a tangent, but as far as the original question, as far as a lot of that stuff, at the time, it seems like I'm putting so much time into this. Is it really worth it? But over time, it's just kind of like, it's that evergreen stuff that keeps, it keeps like for you, Josh, with books that you've put out, a book that you put out a couple years ago or whatever, if you're still getting sales from that, it's like, wow, I did that a long time ago and it's still selling. So
Yeah, and I still get residuals from T-shirts, like
or
not a
t-shirts.
ton, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
weird. T-shirts I literally did almost 20 years ago. Still,
yeah.
still
Right.
every once in a while I get a check, and it's a fun thing. Um, I think what I've learned, and again, we'll see if I'm right, because maybe 3 months from now things have changed. I don't know. Um, but what I've found is really important for freelance is just to kind of have faith in your process and have faith that you can make income making your art. And so what you do is you basically, like, if you're looking for freelance and stuff like that, you send out your queries, right? You have your list of like contacts or whatever that you're reaching out to. You maybe try like so many new contacts per day to try to build that side of things. But in the meantime, it's important for you to be making art and make your own stuff and make it into products.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I,
this
I
is
think that I think that that is I think that's one of the things that cripples people actually in their careers sometimes is they'll like be at a dry period where they're not getting clients and they go, oh, okay, well, I got to go find a job now. And it's like, no, no, no. Like, you can spend that exact time making something cool that you're going to sell. Just target it and treat it like a client,
so
like
this
Scott
is
was describing, where it's like he's thinking about the product and then investing that time. And then it's like a month from now, you're going to high five yourself for doing that extra work, of making a product,
so
I
I
don't
want
know
to
if
I
that
want to
makes
go
sense.
back. I want to go back to my question,
Yeah.
because you guys answered kind of the answer that we normally answer, but I want to
Mhm.
be really kind of like tactical about it.
Hmm.
So on a day-to-day basis, how do you decide how many hours, days, or weeks to devote to those tasks? Because I agree with everything that you're saying,
Yeah.
and I think it's super smart, right? I think Scott, the time that you spent putting together those digital downloads and those
Yeah.
types of things, that's time well spent. And Josh, the time that you're putting into pitching publishers and working with your agent and those types of things, definitely time well spent. But also, um, like I've got to buy food and I've got to pay rent and I've got to,
Yep.
like there's some kind of immediate needs, and then there's also some like I don't know, you want to call this mental, spiritual, or emotional. Like if I get, and maybe this is why I don't do freelance too often, but if I do just client work or just day job stuff, and I'm
Hmm.
not doing stuff to kind of feed the soul a little bit, uh, I kind of wind down and I start to spiral. So my question, just to reiterate the question, is how do you balance those three things of like short term cash, long term maybe residuals, or long term like a bigger deal, and kind of the kind of like feed the soul stuff?
I mean,
Are you scheduling it out? Are you doing what feels good that day? Is it like a percentage thing where you're like, I've got to spend at least 60% of my time trying to make money, or how do you do that?
I can hop on that and say that
Yeah.
like it's going to be the Corey Curry answer. It depends, but it's like, but it is one of those things of like, I think the important thing is that you need to be productive as an artist if you're going to run your own business and work, especially if you're going to make it work freelance. And freelance, I think the days where you could just rely on clients alone are kind of over. So now again, maybe they're not, but again, like just monkey branching from one client to another can be a really dangerous way to kind of run your career.
Yeah.
Because again, like those clients can fall off the face of the map. And so it's like one of those things of, I think it's more of like what is most pressing and urgent. It's like a triage kind of thing.
Mhm.
And the thing you have to treat with urgency, I think, is the personal work that is for products. I'm not necessarily talking about like graphic novels or things like that. Those are
Sure.
much longer term investments. But even for short term investments, you need to make short term investments on your own personal projects because that'll lead to more work. Weirdly enough, I've rarely gotten like really good freelance work from other freelance work that I've gotten. Most of the freelance work I've gotten has been from like cool stuff that I made myself for my website or for
Same.
t-shirts or for other products. So you almost have to treat it with urgency. And that's kind of the challenge of it. And again, that's the trap of it too, because you can get trapped in the client to client to client thing and never really be able to branch out into those more fun other things, because or never be able to kind of experience the like longer term residual stuff, because you're not investing in those things or treating them as priority. So in a weird way, it's like um you have to kind of triage it based on what you can do. But the point being, if you're in a scenario where you've kind of determined I'm going to do art for a living and you're sending out queries and you're not getting clients, you can still work on art. You can still make products. And that's my point. And you can still potentially make money making those products, you know? I don't think people give it enough of a crack sometimes when they go freelance. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Scott might have a better answer with that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not saying I have a better answer. I'm just saying,
Yeah, I
You're
do.
like, what?
Yeah.
As
Answer
a matter
sucked.
of fact.
Just waiting
No, I
for you to
don't.
be done talking. Jeez.
I don't know if my answer is better or not, but I do kind of. I mean, I usually if it's a project with an immediate monetary benefit, like a freelance project, I'll focus on that, and then I'll spend time trying to procure stuff like that or whatever while I'm working on this other stuff. But I tend to go like in spurts. Like I just mentioned, like the KDP thing, I dove real deep into that, and I created a bunch of stuff. And then once it started to perform, then I was like, okay, well, it's kind of performing now. I'm going to focus on something else. So trying to build all these different, legs of this table, and some of it I should probably concentrate a little more on what's working, but maybe it's my ADHD or whatever, but I'm just like, okay, let's did that. I'll come back to that. I'm always like, I'll come back to that. And I typically don't do that, but then I'm on to the next thing. But there is, I do kind of break it down. Like and I guess this is similar to kind of the way Corey works too, where he kind of bounces to these different, projects, his freelance, or not freelance, but his personal projects that he's working on. He'll work on one for a little bit and then he'll move to something else. So I think, I don't know that Corey has ADHD, but he's kind of got that same, MO as far as the way he works on personal projects.
I've never been diagnosed, but I don't think my brain works normally.
Mine definitely does. So,
I think a lot of us artists, like especially of a certain generation before there were diagnoses of a lot of these things, I think a lot of us have things we didn't realize we.
It's weird because I was diagnosed as a kid, so it was, and a lot of people don't realize that till they get older. But I've kind of known about that for a while because I was kind of a problem child in school because of it. But anyway, so I do prioritize like paying stuff and bringing in things that are going to pay the bills or whatever. So last year I had a big like a retainer client. So I had a guaranteed amount of work. It was almost kind of like I had a part-time job. I allocated a certain amount of time, every week. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was working on whatever personal projects or things like that, or kind of figuring out YouTube or all this kind of stuff. And then when that project ended, I had socked some money away, but now I'm kind of at the point where that money's kind of dwindled. So now I'm like, well, I guess I get to go out and figure out, I'm kind of in a similar position as Josh. So I get to, bring in, I've got a couple of like the educational comics thing. We've done a few of those and they were successful, and we're kind of slowly trying to get that going, but it's going slower than I thought. So it's like, originally I thought, oh, okay, so we'll get these projects and that'll kind of allow me to keep, have the time to work on the YouTube stuff. So that's my goal kind of right now. So as far as my schedule right now, I'm just reaching out to, either, trying to build get those comic projects or there's some other opportunities that have come across, my desk or whatever, and looking into those and stuff. And, if I stay afloat while I'm, building the YouTube channel and stuff and all that, that's kind of where I am now. 'Cause I definitely don't want to start looking for full-time work or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I know I just wouldn't have time to do the kind of stuff I want to do on YouTube. And luckily the people in my life are supportive with that, which is kind of unusual, because if you tell people, oh yeah, I'm going to try to make a living, full-time living off of YouTube, they're probably just like, oh, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, but I'm not. It's just there's some strategy involved in it and everything. So, but anyway, that's kind of where I am right now. So I do kind of, based on that, I kind of break up my day on, okay, I got to follow these leads. If once we've kind of got these smaller little 2-page comics that we're working on, and it's not like, when I say comics, it's like they're educational comics, and there's money behind it. So it's not like a independent comic or Marvel DC where there's a whole lot of money there. So it's good, but they're only, like I said, a couple pages, but it's supposed to be a series. So, and they're kind of dragging their feet. So as long as we can get that going, then we'll be good. And then hopefully, we get some of these bigger projects, because last year we had 2 of these big comic projects. But it's just, it's like anything. Sometimes it comes easy, and sometimes you have to work at it. It's like when it rains, it pours type of thing.
Yeah, feast and famine. Yeah. That's the thing that's a lot of people just can't handle it. Weirdly enough, like, can't handle freelance, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just it will do a number on you if you're looking for stability. But so will a job a lot of the time, because again, jobs come and go too. But it's like, you have to be kind of comfortable with pivoting. And like, that's one thing that I'm kind of okay with, where it's like, I can kind of dance on my feet, like, in different directions, depending on what I need to do. And I'm familiar with having to do that. In this particular context of my life, maybe not, but I did do this for like 15 years. And you just have to kind of, the one thing that's, I think is really important, and this is where it's going to sound like The Secret or something stupid, but it's not. You have to be able to retain faith in the fact that it is possible to make a living as an artist. And as long as you keep your faith in that, then like, you will find stubborn, weird ways to make a living as an artist. It's very bizarre, but it's like, when you set out to do it and you're a little stubborn about it, surprisingly, like, things show up. And that can also lead you in those weird directions too. Like, again, if you have a dry day with no clients, maybe that day I'll get further on this crazy graphic novel, or maybe that day I'll do a graphic design for a t-shirt, or maybe that day I'll try something weird like that I haven't tried on YouTube, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's a million things you can do to kind of make a living as an artist. And so I think that part of it's just like picking a few things and trying to target those things, and then, rolling with what's working and rolling away from what's not working, or doubling down on what's not working, because maybe it's not working, so you're not spending enough time on it. It is very, like, in flux, and I think that's kind of the nature of contract work, and I think that's kind of the appeal of it too. It's kind of what's fun about it. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see if I'm singing a different tune in, like, a few months, but it's bizarre. Like, I've had to remind myself. I've had a few panic moments, like, the last few days or whatever. And I've had to remind myself, no, like, make your list. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You make your list, you pick your things, you target them, you either win or lose. And you have to be comfortable with that in this lifestyle as an artist. Like, you just have to, because otherwise, it's just not going to happen. So it's like, I think what Scott was describing, where he was describing like a couple approaches, right? And how those shift, and and he's kind of willing to shift and pivot. You kind of almost have to approach it like that. Like, you're stepping into a boxing ring and you don't know who you're fighting just yet. So you have to be ready to kind of like, do I have to rope a dope here? Like, what are you going to do? Like, who knows? But you kind of figure it out as you go. That can be really scary to a lot of people. But what's weird is, if you think about it, you do that at a day job all the time. If you're working for a creative firm and they get a huge client, guess what happens to your day schedule at work? It shifts, right? Because guess what? Like, that huge client, maybe they have a rush or something, so everything else has to move. You have to be willing to kind of move and pivot. It's just, there's a bigger team, there's like salespeople and all of that. In our scenario, you're everybody. So, you're not just like having the boss come and say, oh, you got to change your focus here on the client. You're like, you are the boss who's like, oh crap, I've got to change my focus on this client because I just got this other thing, that kind of thing. And I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That
Yep.
flux that you're talking about, it's like, and I hesitate to say, well, that's just the way it is as an artist, because I know plenty of artists who they've come up with a system where
Yeah.
it isn't feast or famine. Like, they're self-sustaining as an artist, and they've got a good
100%.
steady stream of income, and it's something that they built themselves and everything like that. I think my problem is, because of that ADHD, I'll be doing one thing and then I'll switch to something else, and then so it's like restarting and all this stuff. So and I'm kind of used to that. So like what you were talking about, just it being here you're here, and here you're down here, and just okay, that's just the way it is. So I mean, last year, I'm doing pretty well. I mean, comfortable. I'm making well over six figures and things like that. And this year, it's like I'm hardly making anything. So it's like, but it's like, okay, but I've the reason why I was able to do what I was doing last year is because I put effort into building that in relationships or whatever, or building products or anything like that. So it's just a matter of, once you're at that point, you can do it again, but it's just kind of like a lull or whatever. So you just get to focus on, at least I have proof that, and I've been doing this in the whole and when I do, like you're saying, you kind of have whether it's a panic attack or whatever, or however, I forget how you mention it, but when you step back and you realize, whenever I get feelings like that, I'll step back and I'm saying, I've been making my living as an artist my whole life.
Yep.
And I don't think that's going to go away. I mean, I'm going to find a way to make it work. So I'm not, that's when I get to say, well, I'm good enough at what I do. I know how to do this. I've done it in the past. It's just, now it's just, I'm kind of in this point here, but I, I'll get out of it, because you kind of figure out how to do it. So,
well, and whether we like it or not, we're kind of veterans at this point as creatives. We're on that other half of we've been doing this a long time. So it's like one of those things of one of the big advantages of being a veteran is you can be like, well, I mean, this is a little scary or whatever, but I've been here a million times before. This is one thing that worked. This is one thing that worked. This is a time that I tried something that was outside of the box that worked even better. And you can rely on those things to kind of be like, okay, things do tend to work. It's just like the bizarre part is that whole, I know it's corny. It's like you kind of have to believe in yourself, as cheesy as that is.
It is a lot, because
but you can't be deluded when you're believing in yourself. That's the part that's tough. Yeah.
That's why I brought up the YouTube thing, because telling people, oh, I'm gonna my goal right now is to see if I can I don't want to rephrase that, because I don't want to see if I can do it, because I will do it. But something that just seems kind of pie in the sky or ridiculous to a lot of people, when in fact there really is. There's, if you dive deep enough and you do research, you can see that there's a formula for a lot of, there's plenty of people who have built successful channels and then either stopped and came back and started a new one and just been able to do it because they know how to do it. There is a formula to it. It does take a while to get to the point, where, or whatever. But there's kind of ways to gain the system and research and see what's working and what's not, and adjust. And that's kind of where I am right now. So it's not as crazy as it seems, especially because I know what I'm putting out is good work, and it's going to constantly get better as I figure out what's working and what's not working. So right now I'm just kind of in this phase, okay, we'll see. I think I have to do this. Like I was just telling you guys before, I'm kind of redoing the beginnings of the videos to strategically get people to watch longer and everything. So there's different things like that. And I don't have right now, I don't have as much data because I've only got 3 videos, and also, when you're trying to build an audience, if somebody comes to you and they're new and like, oh, I really like this video, and then maybe they look at what you're doing. Oh, he's only got 3 other videos kind of like that. So I know once I start building up a little more catalog and people are familiar, kind of it makes more sense what I'm doing, So I don't know. But that's it. That's sort of, that's my next goal, and I've had other goals that I've hit, and so it's just, kind of once you do that, it's kind of like, well, there's a formula here. I just got to figure it out. So.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's interesting because I don't know if there's like an answer. I do like Josh quoting me on the "it depends" thing because like I'd look at like what the three of us have done, and I think we've, at times been way out of balance, and at times been like making the right decisions, and at times not. But it's not like the thing that bugs me about this is I find it difficult to point to when I'm making the right decisions and when I'm making the wrong decisions and try to figure out like the variables or the things that would do that. I can definitely point to when I'm out of balance. That's easy. Like I'm not sleeping enough, or I'm ignoring my family, or, I haven't drawn anything in a week or something, like there's times like that's pretty easy. But like that nuanced area between like, good, better, best, not between good and bad, but just between like, what is the best thing that I could be doing with my time right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know.
Well, that's the bizarre thing. Like do you mind? I kind of want to dig into that because it's like this just happened. Like this Friday, my literary agent like introduced me to like an author they represent that's like pretty well known and sells a lot of books.
Right.
And that author, this was like a long time ago that she had introduced us, and we had been like trying to get back together, like maybe just to have lunch and just chat. And the first thing I realized, like after leaving my job, was like, dude, I have the time to have that like lunch meeting. Oh, yeah. That's like it's a Hail Mary, but like this is kind of what I think ties into what Scott was saying, where it's like, it's a calculated Hail Mary. Like I'm in a position where I can make that Hail Mary right now, where I would not, like, it's like I'm on the field at a point where I could throw that. Maybe 2 months from now I can't. So it's like
a Hail Mary is an interesting analogy because it's a functional play that works sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not like playing the lottery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it isn't. Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at. Yeah. I mean it in exactly the play. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Sure. Because it's unlikely to work.
Yeah.
But it's still well within the realm of possibility, especially if you do it every so often, right? I mean, like the thing with the Hail Mary is like it keeps the defense honest. Like if they start sneaking up on you a little bit, then I'm gonna air one of those out, and it might go for a touchdown, but it definitely will kind of keep the defense a little bit more spread out so that they're not concentrated on the runs or the short passes.
And I think a little bit of what Scott was saying, and I think that I'm saying here, is like I've had enough times in my art career where I've made that Hail Mary and it somehow,
right?
I don't know how, it just worked. Like I've had that happen enough times in my career where I'm like, I have to plan Hail Marys. Like I can't just be satisfied with like, now I just go and search for the next art director thing. And I'm still looking for potential like in-house stuff if that comes up. I still do that daily. But it's like at this point in time, if there's a possibility that we could have a pitch out there and maybe get like a really good, like a really killer book deal, then yeah, of course. I'd like, if I could choose like a year from now, if I could be just doing comics, or if I could be, if I'd be like, in management again, like which would I prefer? I'd probably prefer just doing comics. So I should probably take that shot. But it's an opportunity thing because the opportunity's there. And Scott talks about this a lot, but it's like part of it's just recognizing opportunities in your life. Like there are times where, all you have to do is just kind of say yes and just do the thing, whatever it is. Right. And a lot of the time that kind of reaps its own rewards. I'm not saying it always will. But that's kind of the nature of life, and that's kind of the fun of freelance, in my opinion. Like the fun of being your own business is the fact that like it is really all on you, and it's kind of fun, and you have to be outside of the box and kind of think of different angles and stuff. But things can take off, and like it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that all works. But like me doing that meeting on Friday was like a big calculation for me of thinking about, okay, right now I have like limited resources of time and stuff like that. I kind of did the calculation of like, is the risk to reward, and the risk is worth it for a couple hours of risk, at least at that point, to see if there will be a reward. And it seems like we'll at least get a pitch going out there, and I'll probably invest the time for that as well, just because I think it's worth the long shot, and yeah.
The book you're working on right now, Josh, was the same thing, and you're working on it. So, there's proof right there that,
Yeah, both of them. Like 2 stories, too, was like that. So it's like, I've seen it start working, and it used to happen, it happened in T-shirts when I took that long shot. It's happened a bunch of times in life, and led to other opportunities you couldn't envision, in the bubble. So that's the key, is like kind of keeping your focus, like Scott was talking about too, like keeping your health. Like, so to me, number one thing, like I just left my job, right? I'm working from home. I know what that does to your mental health. Like, and so I'm like, okay, exercise is number one. Exercise is like, so every morning I wake up and I exercise immediately. To be fair, the first thing I do is play a very quick game of Risk, and then I exercise, because that's when I have my coffee. That's like me reading the news. And I used to read news, and I had to stop doing that because as much as I'm like a political junkie, I just get really pissed off reading the news. So instead, I play a game of Risk because it's super fun, and have a cup of coffee, and then I hit. I'm so glad I invested in these things. I have a rowing machine at home because I'm like Scott. I hate gyms. I hate gym bros. Like, I don't hate people who go to gyms. I feel really out of place. This is like, it's like walking into an area where I'm like a stranger in a strange land. Like, I feel like an alien who just set foot on Earth for the first time or something. I'm just like, no, this is not my world. What is this? Whereas when I exercise at home, it's like I find it easier to focus on my form and like do just free weights and just do a mile or a mile and a half on the rowing machine, and then like I hate it the whole time, and then that gives me the energy for the rest of the day. I think that's I don't know. I'm rambling, but I was just saying that because Scott had mentioned working on that. And no, I don't hate gyms with a J, because J Boys for life, Jim. J Boys for life. I still think Jim and I need to get some J Boys like heart tattoos on our.
You definitely need to. It's funny.
Is this
funny
space
that you
free?
bring up.
Is this canvas space free, Jim? Right here.
It's funny that you bring up the risk versus reward, because I've got a whole video script that I've been working on for the last couple of days that's talking about that.
Nice.
As it relates to AI, but I think that kind of that cost benefit analysis, or that risk assessment, or that opportunity cost assessment, or like there's a bunch of different ways to tackle the same problem, which is, am I putting forth effort into something that is going to give me potentially a return that is equal to or greater than the effort that I'm putting in? Like I could at 43, I could put in a significant amount of effort to try to make it to the Olympics in a particular sport. But the chances in my current physical condition plus my age of that, returning a result versus if I had, a different goal and I put, the same amount of effort into the different goal, it's kind of one of those situations like, are you going to get something out of this?
Yeah.
And sometimes on those like long shot things, the potential reward is big enough to where it's like, yes, I am going to put forth some amount of effort towards this. I do think it's kind of irresponsible to put forth all of my effort towards that thing.
Yeah.
Because I've still got some short-term needs that I need to address as well. And so that's kind of where this is such an interesting topic, is that that balance of kind of risk and reward assessment and how that relates to actually doing something. You kind of triage those tasks. And
Yeah.
I found this to be a really difficult thing for people to do. Like
Yes.
I'm watching students semester after semester, year after year, just make the wrong choices.
Yeah.
Like it's just like you made a call in the moment that was the wrong call. Like you have this big giant project that's going to take you 2.5 months to do. You've got 6 other people relying on you. And when it came down to crunch time, when you should have done some stuff, you floated the river instead. Like you made and I like floating the river, but like you made the wrong call. Now, should you spend 100% of your time working on schoolwork? No, you're going to burn out and that's no good. But like there are times when you have to like triage things and say, what is the most important thing that I'm going to do right now?
And I think that ties into something I think about a lot too, because in our community, there's a separation that I see. And I don't think it needs to be this wide gap between people who say they want to do comics and then people who do comics. Um, and the big gulf between them is people who prioritize it and put it on that triage list and people who don't.
Yep.
That's it. That's the big thing. That's the big defining difference between people who finish comics and people who don't.
Or
So
any,
it's one of those
any
things.
type of creative endeavor, animations or illustration or anything. Like if you
Oh yeah.
So this is the other thing. This is the other thing that kind of came up as you were talking, and I couldn't find a source for it, so I'll just call it an anecdote. But I remember somebody telling me about this. He was listening to a podcast or reading a book or something, and there was a sociopath, and the sociopath. I think I remember who was telling me this, so I'll have to go hunt them down. But they were just wildly successful at things, and it was because they didn't let their emotions get involved in their decision making. And he was like, "Yeah, if I want publishing, if I want to be a publisher, or if I not be a publisher, but if I want to be a published author, I know I look at it like gumballs. Like if there's a big giant thing of gumballs, and I want a white gumball, eventually I'm going to get a white gumball if I put enough quarters in the machine. And so I just keep putting quarters in the machine. I know that every time I do that it increases my chances of getting a white gumball. And so if I want to have a finished comic book, then you got to put a lot of quarters in the machine. You've got to sit down and do the work to do that. If you don't do that, then you can talk about wanting to do that all you want, but you really don't. Like your actions, your words, and your thoughts and your self-talk all combine to show what you really want to happen.
There's another thing, and I want to hear Scott's take on this, but there's another thing that I think that creatives need to get comfortable with, at least I think, which is we're not going to be normal people. Like, we're not. Like, creatives are not designed to be just kind of like normal people. We're a little unusual. Generally, most creatives I know, while other people are talking about, man, I can't wait to like get this giant camper and I'm going to just drive across the US on vacations, and they're planning their vacations. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of creatives that do vacations, but most creatives I know, if they're talking big dream stuff, it's like, man, I got this like great American novel I want to make, or I've got this like painting that I'd love to do if I ever get the time to do it. We're just kind of weird. I'm just saying, like, I think it's okay to kind of accept that. Like, to me at my age, I've just kind of accepted I'm just kind of a creative. So like, I'm going to kind of make some creative calls that might be weird, that are creative gambles that no one who's not a creative would be like, oh, that's a great idea. But other creatives would be like, yeah, that's actually really important. You should prioritize that thing,
It's funny
because
that
I'm
you
an artist,
well,
and that's the thing. Yeah, what do you think, Scott?
well, what I think about that, to me, my dream is to get like
A camper.
get a camper,
Nice.
a mobile art studio camper that you could
Yeah.
travel and do all that cool stuff and still work and do all. I think that would be cool. So
Okay, a
I don't
mobile
know.
art camper, I'll give you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys who like their whole plan is like, I can't wait to get the new ATV or whatever.
You
Well,
don't mind it. I want to bury one of those 40-foot containers in my backyard
and have like
build like a total like submersed studio.
oh,
Like
dude,
where I can be like, all right, I'm going to work, and I will just like open up a secret hatch in my lawn, and then just go down a spiral staircase, and then just shut it, and probably suffocate because I didn't
be
figure.
careful. You might start like if there's a bomb panic, you might lose all contact with all your neighbors. Remember that Twilight Zone episode?
Yeah.
Where it's like there's one guy with the bomb shelter, and everybody thinks it's like the end of the world, and they all almost like kill each other, and then it's like, oh, sorry, that was a fake warning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the classic.
What were you saying, Scott?
Oh, I gotta unlock the door.
No, I don't know that I was. I think I thought
Oh,
I just
you're
said
okay.
that.
Yeah, I wasn't. I thought I'd cut you off, but yeah. So anyway, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. So what are your? Let's talk like plans. So kind of moving forward. I think we've all expressed that we want to and are making changes on schedule. So I've kind of said what my plan is. I don't know what I'm going to make yet. I think I am going to do kind of a warm-up sketch of that project, and we've got to get everybody together and talk about that, because I don't know if we're
Am I
saying it
privy
loud
to
enough.
this, or you guys had mentioned that, and I don't.
It happened during
You-
your live stream, so only
Let's
people.
just say it's a conspiracy that we don't want to get too heavily into. 'Cause it
Oh,
involves-
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know how serious you guys were on that. That's
We're
kind
kind
of a
of-
cool idea. It's.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I mean,
I think we need a conference call with the collaborators to talk about whether we want to give that a shot or not.
I would love to see that. I don't know how well. Actually, yeah, let's talk, because I have kind of an idea. I mean, it's always just knowing with like, because I just did these gross food things. I mean, it's kind of sometimes it's hard to market that stuff, but it's kind of a cool idea. So yeah, but
Well, and
Well,
it's topical to certain things
Yeah.
that are in the news, and I think aside from that, it might be kind of interest to something we might be able to kickstart collectively. I feel like.
That's what
Right.
I would shoot, is a Kickstarter towards something. And then Scott,
Okay.
I don't know if you caught. I've talked to different people at different times. I don't know if you caught me talking to Josh about it the other day, but I think we should have, and I don't know exactly how this would function, but like an Artcasters website where members of the community can put their products on there, and then whoever sells whatever gets what they sold. So basically, what you put in, you get out. There's no sharing of money or anything.
right.
But it would be kind of like getting a network effect on helping each other out, drive traffic, instead of driving traffic to some giant thing that's got hundreds of artists or thousands of artists. There would be a dozen or less, and it could be a thing where we put inside jokes or just designs that we've got or whatever. And then this could be one of those types of things. I've seen those kind of like little collectives pop up, and
Yeah.
they do pretty well in like really niche areas like enamel pins or patches or or shirts or something. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
interesting.
It's a
Yeah,
thought.
let's
I think
explore that.
there's a couple things. I don't know, because a few of us have varying degrees of experience in different successful product launches. So I think it could be kind of an interesting kind of not crowdsource, but an interesting kind of like, I'm searching for the term, but basically, kind of a force multiplier of each of our influences into different areas. And so basically I want that Jim Lujan money. I want Jim Lujan to jump on there, throw up some character designs on some mugs
Nice.
and pillows, and then have people see my stuff and go, That's where it's at. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but that secret project, I think we could kickstart it, and I think it could also be one of those things that is like a product in perpetuity on a site like that or something.
Like maybe we could come up with like a collective name for that product, and then anytime we do joint projects, we could call it said collective and like run a Kickstarter, and get people involved that we want involved.
Right,
Might
yeah.
be cool.
Yeah, kind of like Spike does with Iron Circus and stuff like that. Like there's kind of like an umbrella term of people that are kind of brought in under certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm now realizing that I really don't want to do that Kickstarter. Not that I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in charge of it, but I will help build materials for it.
We could figure something out. I mean, we should.
Well,
I think we should start it like a lot of things start. Where I think it would be good if everybody we want involved, like, kind of met up and just troubleshot it and saw if it was something we thought was worthwhile.
Yeah, and that's where I'm thinking. I've got a few weeks off, and I think I want to start every day as a warm up of just doing one of those illustrations real fast. Like, and I'll set some parameters where I don't spend more than 40 to 60 minutes on it. We know exactly what we're doing. We've got our list of ideas, and then I move on to the other things. And then at worst case scenario, we'd have 10 to 15 designs for me, and then I don't know if other people want to jump on and do that type of thing, but that would be an interesting conversation. I bring it up here because I think that's how I want to start my day, so that I can kind of because I work off of momentum really well. So like if I have momentum on something, I can daisy chain momentum into other things and maintain that.
Got it. So you want to start your day off with like a quick win, and then
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. And set a rule, because the other thing that I can do is I can get a quick win, and then I can noodle it for the next like 6 hours, where I just gotta like tweak and fix so I want to be able to have a quick win with like a buzzer that goes off, and then that's it. I'm done, and I move on to something else. But anyway,
I love it.
Those are my thoughts.
Hi, Christopher. He just showed up in chats. Also, hi, Paul.
Cool.
Hi, Jim.
Paul's a big fan of the mobile art camper, and Jim says, I feel like this entire conversation is just leading us to form an art commune. Hashtag cult status unlocked. And
I would like an art commune. I think Scott and I have joked about that for a couple of years now, that like we got to just figure out something where we can have all of us live in as, like, we'll take a chunk of town and it'll just be our little art commune. And then we need to somehow convince followers to, do laundry and cooking and all that stuff for us, so we can just work on art and collective art.
I have family members that lived in a Northern California, what do they call it? Intentional community, which kind of sounded like a commune. Anyway. So not like that. Just the stories that they told. But yeah, I'd be down with that type of thing.
I want a straight up religious cult. Like, we just have to figure out what our sham religion is that we're gonna convince other people to follow, and then we'll talk about it'll somehow tie into like a pyramid scheme of some sort. We'll figure it out.
It's like Creed from The Office.
Uh-huh.
Been in a lot of cults. You have a lot more fun as a follower. You make a lot more money as a leader. Anyway. Well, good. Well, I don't know, Scott. What changes or goals or alterations are you going to make to your kind of schedule, kind of moving forward?
Yeah.
I mean, again, my goal right now is I'm concentrating on YouTube, building this channel and everything, and in the meantime, concentrating on probably these educational comics, see if I can, build something like that. Because if I can get enough of those, then that will allow me to, because I don't need much, but I need, the main thing I need is time. Mm-hmm. So if I can get some projects that allow me to the the time to put into the YouTube channel because it takes a considerable amount of time. So those are my main things. And then I've got some other so it's just it's kind of finding other projects that are going to bring in enough to keep me floating comfortably while I'm doing all this other stuff that's not really earning any money yet. So, and then once I start to see, once I start to see it uptick, then that lets me know, okay, because once things go up, then it's like, okay, well, now we'll try to keep it on a upward trajectory and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's kind of the plan right now. So
Cool.
And
Josh, how about you? What are your? I mean, you've recently already kind of made alterations and changes, but are you going to tweak those, or how is that going?
It's totally in flux at this point. So it's at a point where I can't even really tweak it because I'm still building it. So
Yeah, right.
The one thing that's consistent through it is I have to get this book done. So between all my tweaks and things that I'm figuring out, I'm going to be probably doing a page like between every big task, just so that I can get this off my plate. And then I will hopefully not have other pages where I draw every single member of a crowd in an auditorium to the point where right now I'm like about halfway there, and I kind of hate life right now.
You gotta just show that. This is one panel of this page as well.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
It's going to be a beast.
I gotta say, Jim said, Corey, I don't know why he's making me do this. Please tell Josh that artwork he is working on is absolutely amazing. And then I don't know if those are clapping hands or tacos, but either one I think is appropriate.
I'll take the tacos. Tacos. I'm just going to pretend they're tacos.
Thumbs up taco. So,
I'm glad, Jim, that you agreed that the next time we meet up, you're buying tacos for me. I'm glad to hear that. I'll gladly take those tacos, Jim.
Yeah. And Jim says, Sear Road scenes rock. You're killing it, Josh. And I'm not going to read the next one that corrects that. Okay, so that's good. Anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap?
Yeah, I mean, don't get lost in the sea route, Just focus on, being you. No, I'm always kind of curious to hear how people juggle things. I want to say that one thing I've learned, and this will be my last thing here on it. One thing I've learned for anybody listening to this who's like, oh man, I got to change this up. I got to figure this out. Then I'll find balance. Nobody finds perfect balance. I want to be really clear about that. I think having exercise, I think having a sense of spiritual centeredness in whatever way you get that, I think that's the kind of thing that's going to help you sort of with the whole impossibility of juggling everything, because we can't as people. And so if you're out there trying to spin plates and you're annoyed that some of those plates are dropping, reassess, redefine and stuff like that. But you're also human, so just allow yourself a couple plates every once in a while are going to fall when you're doing this whole plate spinning we're all doing. So I have a great quote for that. There's this guy Jay Golden Kimball that was a pioneer that helped settle. I like that last name. Yeah, it'd be better if it was Kremble, but yeah, we'll call him Kremble. Okay. He said, "I haven't always stayed on the straight and narrow path, but I've tried to cross it as many times as I could." Nice. Yeah. I like that because I was doing this business reorganizational conference thing. It was probably 18 years ago now or something. He was talking about balance and being centered, and he was talking about being centered as like a martial artist. And what he's saying is he had talked to his sensei, and his sensei was saying, the same thing that you're saying. Being centered is not like you arrive at center and then you're just centered. Being centered is all of the little micro adjustments when you realize that you're off center, like that when you're off balance, that you readjust to bring yourself back in. So it's kind of like this kind of oscillating thing where you try to cross the idea of center and balance as many times as you can, rather than being there and staying there, because it doesn't really do that. So Paul says,
a dream about having a small van and going from city to city doing caricatures.
I love that dream.
And
How many of us didn't go down like a wild tiny home rabbit hole for 6 years or so? Like, I've definitely had my times of watching a lot of YouTube videos of tiny homes. Okay.
in 2004, I was very close to buying a houseboat and living a mile off the coast, so that I was in international waters. I think it might have been 5 miles, but I had figured out enough of it to where it like almost happened. So yeah, I've been there. That life would have been a lot different had I decided to be like some sort of sea hermit.
Artcasters would have been called Artcasters.
Oh man! All right, and on that dad joke, let's call it. So yeah, if you are interested in seeing my stuff, you can get this. Oh, I gotta make that nicer. You can get this Go Make Stuff T-shirt and/or hoodie and/or other things. You can get that at CoreyKerr.com. Those are available, as well as the some of the things that I was putting up while we were talking. So you can kind of see the phone cases that are available, and there's iPhone and Samsung. So if you want this one that I just finished designing, This Machine Learning Kills Artists, kind of based on Woody Guthrie's This Machine Kills Fascists, or the distraction rectangle, you can get that at CoreyKerr.com/store. If you want to go directly to the phones, you can go CoreyKerr.com/phone. And Josh, where can we find your stuff?
You can find my stuff looking for Joshua Kemble on YouTube. Come join the Kremlin, as I do live streams almost daily now. Today's stream was not the most entertaining stream because it was full of, I got interrupted 50 times on stream and stuff like that. But they tend to be.
And then some jerk made you think that you had to end it early.
Yeah, and then some bozo thinks that Artcast is going to start at 5 when it starts at 7. I don't know who that bozo was.
The time zones really throw me off.
But yeah, I get thrown off by time zones too. But yeah, it's generally a pretty good time, and honestly, it's pretty fun to hang out and work on art with everybody. So if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel so we can hang out and draw and work on stuff together. And not only that, make sure you've bought my books, 2 Stories in Jacob's Apartment, which are both really good graphic novels that you would like and you should buy. So they're over 120 pages. Both of them took about 5 years a piece. And for 5 years of work, it's like a couple cups of coffee and cost. Come on, pick it up. All right. Anyhow, that's my wares.
And Scott, where can we find your stuff? And what do we do with this crazy, ever-changing time slot of Artcasters?
Yeah, so you can find my work at my website at circworks.com. Tons of digital packs for making comics, digital tools and things, as well as my own comic, Young and the Dead, a kids versus zombie adventure story. Just think Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. I've got, how many? I got five issues available now? Yeah, 5. Oh, yeah, and to get those gross stickers, there's still a few available. Wax packs.
Okay.
Yeah, custom wax packs.
Handmade.
And yeah, and there's 9 different stickers in there, plus a crusty old stick of bubble gum that I don't really recommend you eating, but it's kind of just there for the fun of it. So all kinds of cool stuff on my website. Also, go to my YouTube channel, check out my new YouTube videos that I'm putting up. And then you can see how to make those wax packs, and you can make some of your own because it's just super fun. And besides that, this show we do Artcasters. We do this show pretty much every single week. It used to be on a Thursday, and it may go back to Thursday at some point. But right now, for the short-term foreseeable future, I think it's going to be on Sundays. Maybe at this time, it may. Who knows? But if you don't want to be confused, if you want to know exactly when we're going to go live, who the guest is going to be, if we have a guest, or maybe we don't have a guest like tonight, all that information, what the topic is, all that stuff. We usually put that out on our newsletter, and that's all we do. We don't like spam you or do a bunch of other stuff. It's usually about 30 minutes or so, at least, before we go live. We'll put that up, let you know where we're going to be broadcasting from, whose channel, because it rotates around different channels. So that's the kind of the easiest way to figure out when we're going to go live, is just join that mailing list, and it doesn't cost you anything. So just there's a link in the description. You click that, and then you'll be alerted when we're going to go live.
Yeah, or when we're going to go to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, according to Jim Lujan. Bring the tacos, Jim. Bring the tacos there.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully everybody has a good week, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Sweet.